Nigeria, the entire Section 308 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended, focuses on political immunity. Our program today is Political Immunity in Nigeria. Who is above the law? Joining us is Professor Kingsley Moghalu, who is the presidential candidate of the YPP. Thank you so much for joining us in today's program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So the Constitution allows for immunity of individuals who are governors, presidents, for their time in office, excuse me, I beg your pardon. Yeah. Do you think that this is sustainable, that a man or woman who commits a crime, that as long as you're elected into office for those positions that I mentioned, you are automatically exempt of the law?
I don't think it's right. The whole question of immunities is a complicated one. In many parts of the world, you have immunity when you're in certain offices for acts you have done in the course of your official responsibility. So if you go and kill someone, the fact that, you are a governor or the president, really shouldn't make you immune. But also you have another complication in the diplomatic world where, certain levels of diplomats have absolute immunity and they cannot be prosecuted even for crimes in the country in which they are serving, but they can face the law in their own country. So immunity is a very sensitive issue. I think in Nigeria, the president and the governors, I think they should have immunity for acts done while in office, but I don't think they should have immunity for crimes which are outside the normal course of business.
So what are the intentions behind the immunity clause? Well,
I've explained to you that it's in most of the world, the immunity clauses are meant to prevent high-level officials from being distracted by lawsuits for things they've done under the normal course of business. But people may disagree with those things, and so they may want to sue them. Say a governor takes a decision concerning a certificate of occupancy for land, which is the governor's responsibility to approve, and somebody doesn't agree and goes to court. If a governor keeps getting court cases on the basis of such things, that's not, you see what I'm saying? That is what I think was behind it. But in Nigeria, we know that it has been abused. We know that it has now become immunity for acts of corruption, essentially. And our political class has become extremely corrupt because of it.
And if you assume the position of president, what would you do about that? Is it something that you believe you can challenge? Is it something that you believe that you can take back to the National Assembly and, ask for a review of this constitutional?
Yes, I will definitely go back to the National Assembly with some proposals, maybe in the form of an executive bill, amendment bill, but it is ultimately the National Assembly's responsibility to make laws.
So are you saying that if you become president, you're going to strike out immunity totally?
No, I can't strike out immunity because immunity is a constitutional provision. But I'm saying that as the president, I will go back to the National Assembly, which has the legal authority to amend. That's a constitutional amendment that you're proposing. So if they agree, it has to go through the process of a constitutional amendment, which is the National Assembly, the two houses, and 2/3 of the houses of assembly of the states can amend the Constitution. So, but I can make a proposal. That's what I'm saying.
What would be your proposal specifically?
I will make a specific proposal for the language to be changed, to focus on acts committed in the course of their ordinary acts committed in the course of their official business. I would exempt acts of corruption. I would exempt crimes like murder, those types of things. If you go to many countries today, people who are in office, prime ministers, their families, they are investigated for any malfeasance, even while they're in office. It is so the provision for immunity in the Nigerian Constitution, I think it has been excessive, both in reality in terms of the law and in practice in terms of the way politicians have used it. It's become a license for corruption, and that is what any amendment I'll be proposing as president will be focused on.
Expanding the scope of this topic a bit,
Yes.
the National Assembly, the legislators have also said that they are actually seeking immunity. So this exercise almost seems dead on arrival, given the fact that they're also looking to enjoy the immunity
For
of state
themselves.
government for themselves.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes.
So how do you intend to, given the fact that presently constituted, the relationship between the executive arm of government and the legislative arm of government is very, what's the word I'm looking for now? It's very
Tense. It's
tense.
It's
You know,
tense,
so
yeah.
how would you go about pushing issues like this that are still so sensitive?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me come back to the legislators themselves wanting immunity. The problem we have in this country is that the citizens of our country are asleep. They complain and do nothing. I am running for president on the platform of the Young Progressive Party, YPP, because I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. So I decided to do something about it. Our people should not sit around and watch legislators take on immunity for themselves. After all, there is a constitutional provision for recall of legislators. So our citizens need to understand that the office of the citizen is a powerful office. You are the most powerful person in Nigeria. If only you knew how powerful you were and use your power. You cannot sit around and allow people who are politicians to be turning, the state into their private estate. This is what has happened. The state has been turned into the private estate of politicians. And so you now have National Assembly. Why should they have immunities? Can anybody tell me? They do not engage in executive acts. Immunity is for executive functions. There is no immunity anywhere in the world that I know, in the civilized world, for legislative functions. But in Nigeria, logic stands on its head and works. And we allow it.
The fight against corruption so far.
Yes.
What do you have to say? Is immunity advantageous or non-advantageous to the fight against corruption so far?
Immunity, immunity is disadvantageous to the fight against corruption. If people know that they're not immune for acts of corruption while they're in public office, they will be more circumspect. They will be less corrupt. So it has become a cover for corruption. And that cannot be an advantage for this country or for our people.
We're going to take a short break right now. When we return, we're going to open up our phone lines. We want to hear from you, your thoughts about this very issue and your questions for the YPP presidential candidate, Professor Kingsley Morilo. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on The Weekend Show.
Uncle Suru, I'm off to Surulere. They say if I meet Two-Face, I'm gonna become a big star. Uncle Suru, they say that I'm daydreaming. Musician life is no easy. I wanna become a big star. I'm tired of dreaming of where I want to be, of where I want to go. Uncle Suru, you talk, say you go help me. You say if I believe, I go make a more, I go make a more. I am ready to take over the world, take over the world. Spread my wings and fly away. One day, they gonna know my name. So Uncle Suru, I'm off to Surulere. They say if I meet Two-Face, I'm gonna become a big star. Uncle Suru, they say that I'm daydreaming. Musician life, you know, easy. I wanna become a big star. Uncle Suru, industry my leg. You got to get the connection if you want to become a big star.
Welcome back to The Weekend Show. We're talking political immunity with the YPP presidential candidate, Professor Kingsley Morilo. The number to call to join this conversation is 080-7051-9904. That's 080-7051-9904. Hamza Lawal obviously is my guest co-host of the day, and he was just asking while we went on break if Professor Kingsley Morilo has chosen his running mate and if it's a woman.
Let's wait for the announcement.
The announcement, when is that going to be? Because
very soon, within the next 24 to 48 hours, I will announce my running mate.
Your running mate, okay.
Yeah.
So I also want to know how your campaign has been so far.
Yeah.
We see a lot of situations where the incumbent government harasses the opposition.
Yes.
For instance, Atiku Abubakar just returned from his trip to Dubai.
With a private jet.
I do have an issue with that.
Yes.
Okay. With
and
a
I'll
private.
talk about it.
Okay. He returned with a private jet, and his private jet was ransacked by the Department of State Security. And the Honorable Minister of State for Aviation, Hadi Sirika, had said that no one is immune to aircraft searches apart from the president. So, as a former vice president, do you believe that they should
okay, Atiku himself.
Atiku himself,
okay,
as a former vice president, do you believe that he should have been treated in such manner?
Well, first of all, let me speak about the matter of private jets, because while there's nothing illegal about it, I mean, if it's the product of your lawful enterprise, that's okay, but it shows the difference between those of us who are trying to lead this country. I travel throughout this country. I've gone to about 30 states, meeting rural Nigerians, and I'm going through mostly roads that are horrible death traps. Oftentimes, I never arrive when I'm supposed to arrive because the roads are terrible. There's all sorts of horrible traffic. I travel by air. I travel by the average airline. I travel in economy class. The airline announces delays. Oh, the flight is delayed for 1 hour. Flight is delayed for 2 hours. So I am living a Nigerian experience, the average life of every ordinary Nigerian. The people in the PDP and the APC, they are completely and utterly removed from reality. And their problem, somebody's problem is that he or she doesn't have what to eat. Somebody's problem is that his private jet was
Professor
searched.
Morgan, let me plead with you to hold that thought. We have a caller on the line. Go ahead. Your name and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Enugu now. About this transfer is automatic. For 2 years I've been on the line and nothing is happening.
Sorry, can you go ahead, please?
Yeah, I can.
Go ahead. What's your feedback regarding political immunity?
Okay, I'm not talking about immunity. I'm talking about what the president aspirant has for Nigeria.
Candidates, please.
So go ahead.
Please, I want to know what Professor Kingsley Moyalo will do for young people. We have enormous young people rolling on the street, doing nothing, carrying brand envelopes, going from one office to the office, no job. What will Kingsley Moyalo do for us young people? And again, what is his stake in this restructuring that every Nigerians are clamoring for? Please, we want to know his stake, and not like when Buhari promised us restructuring, and now he's not more talking about restructuring. He's asking us what does people really want. What will Kingsley Moyalo do for us about restructuring Nigeria? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Can I answer?
Of course you can. The number to call again is 080-7051-9904. That's 080-7051-9904. Okay, I'll let you conclude your thoughts then answer the gentleman.
Yes, I was talking about the kind of world different politicians live in. The old recycled politicians, such as President Muhammadu Buhari or Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, we know that the parties they represent and they themselves have not been successful at governing this country. So it is time for something different, something new, something bold. And that's what I offer. I am the YPP, the Young Progressives Party. So we're a party of the masses. We're a party of the people. Our presidential candidate, which is me, I am mingling with the people, traveling by the way normal people travel. Other people have a problem of traveling by private jets, and my private jet was searched. And that becomes news. Is that one of our most important problems in this country? We who are the poor, the downtrodden, are spending their time discussing Atiku's private jet and whether it was searched or not. What does that tell you? Is that something right? It's his problem. Let him address it with the government. If there's a legal issue, we don't need to be bothered about whether his private jet was searched or not. Let him raise that matter. But it is not the most urgent issue for Nigerians today. The more urgent issue for Nigerians is that the roads on which all of us travel are terrible. That's the issue, that our airlines don't function properly. That's the real issue. So that's my comment on the matter of the private jet. I don't spend my time discussing Atiku's private jet. I am sorry. I have more important things to talk about that matter to the Nigerian people. Speaking of which, the question that the gentleman has asked is the kind of question I want to be talking about. Let me answer you. You talked about restructuring. You talked about what will I do for Nigerian young people. Let me answer. Constitutional restructuring of Nigeria is absolutely essential if Nigeria is to work as a country. Nigeria is not working today. We are called the Federal Republic of Nigeria, but we are not in reality a federation. Everything is decided in Abuja. Our revenues are owned by the federal government and then distributed down to the levels of states or local governments. That's not how a proper federation functions. So, as president of Nigeria, I will lead a constitutional restructuring of Nigeria that will be accomplished within 18 months from my taking office. That's what I'm going to do. Now, the restructuring has to be based on a new constitution, because the current constitution was made essentially by the military, and therefore it's not really a people's constitution. So I'm going to be presenting an executive bill to the National Assembly on how a restructured Nigeria should look. And that restructured Nigeria will look like this. Number one, the restructuring should be based on regions, the 6 geopolitical zones, not on the basis of states. Why am I saying this? Because many states in Nigeria today are not economically viable. But the 6 geopolitical zones, each one of them can constitute a market, for trading, for manufacturing. So it's a viable economic entity, if you see what I'm trying to say. And then the zones can compete amongst and within themselves in a friendly manner. That is what will be beneficial for Nigeria. A constitutionally restructured Nigeria is a Nigeria in which there is resource control. Every region of Nigeria should own the natural resources under their soil. And then from the revenue they earn from such resources, they pay a tax to the federal government. My only caveat is that we should not repeat the mistake of oil, the mistake we've made with oil, exporting crude natural resources and then importing refined petroleum products. How else do you define madness?
Prof,
now,
every time I intend to dig deeper, probe further into these, I get a call in my ear, we need to go. I'm sorry about that.
So restructuring is necessary. And just to finish off, on the matter of young people, when I become president, my government will establish a skills training center in each of the 774 local government areas of Nigeria that will give young people skills, IT skills, welding, carpentry, any practical things that can help you to become more employable. Then, alongside that, we will establish a 1 trillion naira venture capital fund that will invest in new businesses that people may want to start based on the skills they have. If you're a vulcanizer and you want to set up, or you and your fellow vulcanizers want to set up a big modern vulcanizing plant or place, the venture fund will invest in it, not a loan that you have to pay back at 30% interest rate, or that you will not even be able to get because you don't have collateral. This is what we call equity capital. The venture fund will become a part owner of the business. So they may have 30% or 40%. But what it means is that you started a new business with not 1 kobo coming out from your pocket.
Prof,
this is how we will address the issue
but before
of
you
youth
go,
unemployment.
in 5 seconds,
Sure.
can you tell us what would be the role of young people if you're elected president?
Of course.
And I want you to tell us specifically
Yeah.
the percentage of appointment you give both young men and young women in your government.
In my government.
Very quickly,
Yeah,
please.
good point. Now, I'm running for president on behalf of the youth of this country. I am the candidate of the Young Progressives Party. We're young, we're progressive, but we're not exclusion. We're exclusionary, because anybody of any age can be part of our party. So the youth and the future of the youth in this country is why I'm running for president. The young people will play a very, very powerful and vital role in my government. But I don't want to make fake political promises. There is no way young people can have anything less than 40% of posts in my government. There's just no way that is going to happen.
Of appointments,
yes,
okay.
Of course. But I'm not going to be dwelling on that, because that is, any politician can come and tell you that. Oh, we will give young people this, we'll give young people that. No, the important thing is the spirit. But meanwhile, they're telling you that, but you young people, they're telling, belong to the youth wing. You're in the boys' quarter. It is old, recycled men who are telling you that they'll give you a certain percentage. No, vote in a young person. Vote in somebody who's young, experienced, dynamic, and has a vision.
Professor Kingsley Mwaru, thank you so much for your time. I must make a comment that in terms of restructuring, Professor Kingsley Mwaru is the second presidential candidate that has talked about implementing restructuring through executive orders. So it's going to be very interesting to see or to probe.
Let me correct you there. No. I'm not proposing, you cannot constitutionally restructure Nigeria through an executive order. I said I'll present an executive bill
to the National
Assembly. To the National Assembly,
okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. So we'll probe further on these issues the next time we have Kingsley Moghalu on the show. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you
We'll
very
take a short break right now. More on the political segment. Do not go anywhere.
Well, welcome back to the show. Joining us on this segment is Rek Idaminabo. He's a youth candidate running for House of Representative under ADC, Port Harcourt 1 local government. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Thank you.
So Rex, we just finished the interview with the presidential candidate of the Young Progressive Party, and he claims he's the youth presidential candidate. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, everyone can come up and say it's a youth presidential candidate because it's about the heart, what you have for people. Because you can be far older, but you don't have aspirations to assist the youth, to see how you can provide because if you look at Nigeria and the demography, the youths are the population. It's increasing every single day. So we need a candidate that has the heart for the youths. Yes.
You're contesting for House of Representative.
Yes.
What is youth empowerment to you?
Youth empowerment, number one. There's a fundamental problem right now in Nigeria, and that is the mindset. Politicians have used you know what happened. Like I just read into these elections right now, and I noticed virtually all the youth were asking me, "What do you have? How far? Give me 5,000 naira." Because that is their mindset of what youth empowerment means. So I designed, in my manifesto, I've designed what I want to do to empower the youth, and that is called an entrepreneurship hub. I have 10 words, and each of the 10 words, I want to empower 100 people each. So what I've done, it's a friend of mine said he believes more in certificate than certificate, and I agree to that philosophy. In my state, in my constituency, which is Port Harcourt Federal Constituency 1, I noticed and I've realized that most of these people are very skilled, but they don't have the opportunity. You see politicians clustering all of them and say they want to give them ICT training, but they don't have the flair for ICT. So these entrepreneurship hubs will bring them into clusters and ask them, what do you love to do? Let's focus on their skills and their ability. When we finish the trainings in the entrepreneurship hubs, we'll have some seed funds and we'll get experts to see how they can monitor those funds, how they use those funds, and monitor the progress of their businesses. So that's why I regard as empowerment.
So what you're saying is you're going to use your constituency allowance or your constituency funds as earmarked in the budget to do this. But while holding that thought, you're aspiring to be a federal lawmaker. What is your take on political immunity? Mind you, noting that there's a debate at the National Assembly saying that lawmakers should be immune.
First, if you see the Constitution, Section 308, it was expressly stated that it covers the president, the vice president, the governor, the deputy governor. And the drafters, in their wisdom, they just selected these 4 people, which I don't have a problem with it. Because if you decide to take off the immunity from these individuals, it will paralyze a lot of activities back in the states. And you see the economy will just crumble because everyone wants to sue them. Everyone wants to sue them because there's no immunity covering them. So it will just paralyze everything happening in the state. And for the legislators, I think it's not ideal to see how they can request to also enjoy that privilege
of immunity. Lastly, Tony, as the candidate of the ADC for the House of Representatives seat, we've heard from different young people running across the 6-tier political zones in the country that it's a little difficult, given the fact that they're running against people who are wealthier than them, people who have godfathers, godmothers, godbrothers, godsisters, and people who have the backing of a solid political establishment, such as the APC or the PDP. What challenges have you faced in your aspiration to become a member of the House of Representatives?
First, the money factor. What I've decided to do is to mobilize the intellectual power of the people and told them they can take action. Right now, we have over 981 volunteers. So I believe in the philosophy, don't let them not see you coming, because they feel with their money they can buy people. But we tell them with our experience we are qualified to do better than they are doing. So they should just move. Let them just give us a space, because one of the things I have told people, look at the track record of the individual. I've empowered over 7,000 people directly and indirectly through the Young CEO Business Forum. That's a track record. And what I did again was to go to the National Assembly to learn from the ropes for over 3.5 years. Because I didn't want someone to say you didn't have experience.
What do you mean learn from the ropes?
Number one, you need to learn how bills have been passed. You need to see how you can develop, you can write bills, you can see the administrative part of the legislature. So, and I've seen a lot of lacunas. So I've decided to come and change things, yes.
That's a fine place to leave it. Tonye Rex Idiminabo. Thank you so much for your time. We'd love to have you again on the program.
Thank you.
We'll take a break right now. We bring you quickly the sports and entertainment segment of the weekend show. Please don't go anywhere.